welcome to Inner Circle Guidance. Today we're going to be doing a collective reading, but for those of you who are new to the circle, hello and welcome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I post new readings every single day. And if you're looking for personal readings or personal services, I offer them through my website, innercircleguidance.com. Okay, seems like Spirit has quite the message today that's coming through. So let's find out what else you need to know today. We had the Ten of Swords that fell out. We had the King of Swords that fell out. We have the Star. We have the King of Pentacles. We have the Three of Swords. We have the Queen of Cups. We have the Ace of Wands. We have the Four of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck here. I'm going to move these down here so I can see how they came out in order. We have a lot of masculine energy here on the table. And I don't say that just because we have two kings, because the suit cards don't always fall into the particular gender that they are depicted as. The reason I say that we have a lot of masculine energy here on the table is because the swords cards and the pentacle cards tend to fall more into a masculine energy of logic, practicality, and reason. Because swords cards have to do with communication, it has to do with ideas, the way you communicate those ideas, and it has to do with truth. Whereas the King of Pentacles has to do with being grounded, it has to do with earthly possessions, it has to do with career and finances and the way that you essentially work through and make decisions when it comes to your physical world. Then we have the Queen of Cups, and the Cups suit has to do with emotion. It has to do with feminine energy, of intuition, of nurturing. Two very different sort of energies here. What I'm seeing is, with the overall energy being the Four of Pentacles, is that there's this sort of energy that you have gotten into where you're very much clutching onto what you have. There's this energy where you're sort of afraid to step out of your comfort zone, afraid to really fully be seen or heard, afraid to completely stand in your power. And it's partially because there's a fear of losing what you already have, or a fear of what you have being taken from you. And what I'm seeing is that there is an imbalance here with the way that you give and the way that you receive. And we've actually kind of been touching on this, I think, in the last reading, when on Monday we talked about the things that the eclipse were bringing forward, the triggers that were going to be happening, and the things that were going to be healed. I think I mentioned that there was going to be a redefinition of giving and receiving. There was going to be sort of this focus on giving and receiving in the different areas of your life. A lot of you have sort of been chasing after what it is you want, and you have been really forceful in trying to make that happen. For some of you, that's literally happening in your work, because the Pentacles cards have to do with career, has to do with money, where it's sort of like you're clutching onto your purse strings here because you're afraid of either losing money, you're afraid of, it's almost like you don't trust yourself entirely in some way when it comes to your material gain. So for some of you, you may have experienced losing everything financially, or making a decision that was a bad investment, or maybe you lost your job, whatever it may be. But there's these sort of things that are keeping you from taking risks. But this goes deeper than just that. It's the energy in which you've been moving forward. A lot of you, especially in your career, have been overworking yourself, and you sort of keep yourself very busy because you have this mindset that with success, you have to work really hard. You keep being very forceful with the way that you are showing up for yourself because maybe you're very ambitious or you have these goals and dreams that you want to achieve. But in doing that, there's this rigidity that I'm sensing where it's like things are so structured and you're falling into such a masculine energy of the structure where it's like you're trying to be exceptionally logical, exceptionally rational, exceptionally structured. Everything is almost like dictated down to like the second. A lot of you have experienced a lot of burnout because of that. Now, for those of you who are not as career driven, and that's not the main focus, this has to do with how you go about your manifestations, where you're still doing that same thing, but it may not be in the area of your career specifically. What I'm seeing is that the 10 of Swords, there's sort of this energy of you going on this internal shift and journey, where a lot of you are, and we also have the 3 of Swords, which also has to do with pain. A lot of you are holding on to these past cycles, these past ways of being, thinking, doing. You're allowing your manifestations and your decisions moving forward to be moved forward based off of your past. So what you're doing is you're siphoning your present energy and you're sending that energy, or the energy is being used up by past energy, which is cutting your spiritual energy in half when you go to manifest what you want. And part of that is through this very masculine energy of giving, where you're constantly going. You're constantly focused on the end goal. You're constantly focused on moving forward to the point such that you are actually not open to receiving in the way that you need to in order for you to move forward with the fulfillment that you desire. Now, I just said a lot there, so I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Ultimately, what's happening here is that a lot of you have had negative experiences from your past and you are now awakening from that. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the eclipse at this time, because the eclipse also, this last one was in Aries, and Aries is very fire energy where it's literally going to burn down all of the illusions that you've been hiding behind this entire time. That's why a lot of you have been having these very massive sort of realizations, or there's these crushing of timelines that's happening that's making things feel very unstable, or there's just been like a very big upheaval. Sometimes the inner shifts are bigger than the physical ones because of the way they affect you. With the King of Swords, there's these truths that are suddenly coming in that are bringing you more peace, that are also showing you a new way of thinking, of being, of moving forward. The way that you think about things has shifted. We have owls here in this particular card. Owls have to do with wisdom, they have to do with spiritual awakening, but owls also have to do with blessings and miracles. And what you're starting to realize is that it's not so much that blessings and miracles happen to you, it's that you are learning how to create the blessings and miracles for yourself, or recognize when they appear so that you can actually take advantage of them. You're starting to recognize that you had more agency through a lot of these past cycles than you thought you did at the time, and you have sort of in the past maybe looked for excuses or looked for problems to avoid the responsibility or accountability that you needed to take in order for things to shift. There's also crows here. Crows are connections to the spiritual realm. They are also ancestors. And the thing about crows is that when you are surrounded by crows and ravens, blackbirds in general, it can be an indication that your ancestors, your spirit guides are looking out for you, but it can also mean that you have been influenced negatively by the way things have always been, or the traditions that you've fallen into, or the generational cycles, or the experiences that you have perpetuated generation from generation based off of your experiences. And this is really the point I'm trying to make here when it comes to what I said about repeating cycles and working from a place where you're manifesting from the past. It gets deeper than just the default settings and the limiting beliefs. This is like an understanding level. This is not recognizing how generational cycles have been perpetuated by the decisions that you've made, but also the influences not only of your experiences, but not only of what people have said to you, but how you've internalized your experiences and the experiences you have witnessed through your generations, through your family, through your friends, through the cycles that you have been a part of, experienced, had some sort of communication verbally about, like all aspects of it. And then you have the bat here. Bats also have to do with spiritual awakening and things coming to the surface that were there all along, but you didn't actually see. A lot of times you don't see bats, but they're there, but we don't really see them because they're hidden by the night. It's the same sort of thing here. It's like a lot of these truths are coming to the surface finally. A lot of these illusions and perceptions that you've been working under are coming to the surface. And there's this realization, there's this peace that's happening because you're finally coming to terms with some of the things that have been holding you back for a very long time. And it's through these experiences and things that you have really been closed off from your heart. You have shut out your feminine energy. For some of you, it's to avoid the emotions and things that went along with these cycles and these generational curses and things, to protect yourself. For others of you, it's like you didn't know how to connect with your feminine side, with your heart, with what actually set you on fire, the things you actually were passionate about. It's like you couldn't connect to what actually brought you fulfillment on a deep level until now. And it's because there was this sort of avoidance of your feminine energy to protect yourself through using your masculine, through trying to be so structured that you kind of forgot how to be yourself and authentic in that process. The reason why receiving is in a feminine energy is because in order to receive, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be open. You have to allow. You have to become. You have to open your heart to the possibilities without holding on so tightly to a specific outcome. This is literally what detachment is. A lot of you with this masculine energy have been so focused and so structured that you've cut out things that could be so much better for you because you've been so forceful in the way that you've been trying to receive them, that you've actually been shut off from receiving in a lot of ways. And remember, we've talked about this in other readings where you receive in the way that you give. So if you're in this constant overgiving, this constant overworking, this constant, everything has to be hard, you're not open to receiving your blessings and your abundance. You're not open to receiving because not only are you shut off from your heart and from your emotions and your feminine energy and your intuition, but you are preventing even better outcomes from entering your world and your awareness because you have been so hyper fixated on a specific outcome, which gets into a bunch of different attachments as well, which I think a lot of you are going to need to figure out some more of these attachments, and they're going to be coming up. And to be clear, when I say attachments are the mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional gratifications that you receive that keep you attached to a negative karmic cycle. Now, attachments can be positive or negative, but I'm referring to the negative, which is why I said that. So what's happening here is there is sort of this breaking open that's happening for you. That breaking opening is allowing you to connect to your divine self. Notice how you'll see here, there's this string that's attached from this woman who's holding on to it and to the stars in the heavens and the divine. There's this sort of opening up that's happening with you, but also a connection to your higher self, connection to your spiritual realm, connection to the big picture. A lot of you have been so focused on the little details that you've forgotten the big picture. It's been lost in translation. You've been looking at things from such a small, minute piece that you sort of forgot to take a step back and see the entire piece of art, the entire trajectory. What I'm seeing now is with the King of Pentacles, there's this grounded energy that's coming in, but grounded in a different way. Instead of grounding yourself into this forceful energy, you're grounding yourself more in peace. You're grounding yourself more in a way where you are open to the more feminine energies. You're open to more receiving, which means that you're going to be receiving then more abundance because you're more open to receiving it in the first place. A lot of the pain from the past that has kept you stuck is going to be released, but there's also going to be triggers coming up to show you what attachments you have to negative cycles and what needs to be broken. The Queen of Cups is this surrendering sort of energy to the divine. And notice how she's half submerged in water here, but there's a balance. The lower half is submerged, the upper half is above water, so there's no feeling of drowning here anymore in the emotions. There's this surrendering to where you're allowing the emotion to come more calmly, more serenely. You are making space for the things that you've been avoiding for a long time, which is allowing you to actually heal them. Notice how there's this cup and it's floating on top of the water, and there's this just sort of surrendering to the energy. We're not trying to keep the cup afloat. We're not trying to keep the cup in one place, and it's naturally just staying there on its own accord. That's essentially what's happening here. A lot of you have been so forceful in everything you've been doing. You've been forceful with your emotion, forceful with the way you treat yourself, forceful with the way you talk to yourself, forceful with the way that you go about doing things, that it's prevented you from actually enjoying anything, and it's prevented you from receiving the blessings that you deserve. And that has come from also this refusal to surrender, to be vulnerable, to be open, but also this refusal to acknowledge your worth. A lot of this, for a lot of you, is going to come down to you're forceful because you're trying to prove something to something. And the reason I say something to something is it's not always proving to you, it's proving to outside perceptions or whatever. This surrendering is going to allow things to go from such a forceful state to more calm and tranquility. It's going to allow you to be this cup where you're in the water, but you're able to stay grounded, and you are able to keep things peaceful and keep things in a steady state regardless of what's going on around you. And I think, let's see, what is this thing above her head? Oh, it's a crown made of water. So a lot of you are stepping into your power here. And actually, what's interesting is she's sitting on a throne, which at first I didn't know what it was because it looked like a big plate or something behind her. She's sitting on a throne that's half underwater is what's happening here. But it's like the animals and things below her are at peace and calm. And there's a fish over here, which fish have to do with rebirth. Fish also have to do with Pisces energy. So for some of you, that was weird. For some of you, Pisces energy or something having to do with Pisces season may be important for you. And then we also have the Ace of Wands here, and this is a opening of the third eye. This is finally recognizing things on the highest level, having the highest understanding, having the highest intention. This is also having divine inspiration, new ideas that are going to awaken you to new ways of being. Now, some of you may need to meditate more and allow some of this divine guidance to come through. Some of you may need to slow down during this time and be very intentional with the way that you move forward. But ultimately, what is going to be the main divine guidance here outside of the triggers and things that we've talked about is you are going to suddenly have these downloads and understandings of the ways in which you've been holding yourself back, the ways in which you've been playing small, the ways in which you have been working from negative, or maybe not even negative, maybe just not as high intentions or awakened understanding. There's a different sort of thinking that's happening here. And these new thoughts and these new ideas are going to give birth to new ways of being. There's a very huge internal shift that's happening here within you. And the way that you come out on the other end is going to be forever changed and transformed. This is very, very big energy. And what I'm seeing is that for those of you who have felt like you've always had these important things to do in your life and you always felt like you were falling short, you're finally going to be stepping into the power that you need in order to be that version of yourself. You're going to be able to take full accountability and understand without judgment everything that has happened in your life and come to terms with it in a way that you've never been able to do before. And that's going to have a massive release which also means that you need to be very in tune with how you're feeling and make sure that you are providing yourself the care that you need when you need it. So if you need more rest, things like that, you need to take it, because this is going to take a lot out of you. There's going to be a lot of thinking that's going to be happening here. There's going to be a lot of ideas coming in. There's going to be a lot of very vivid dreams that you may be having. There's going to be a lot of synchronicities. You're going to maybe even feel a little overwhelmed by the amount of information that's being given to you all at one time. And that's partially on purpose, because the universe wants you to get very, very comfortable with being open to receiving and being able to learn how to filter these received things with intention. But that requires a huge amount of, again, surrendering and feminine energy of being open to receiving. Part of this journey right now is the universe is intentionally overwhelming you with things so that you can learn how to be grounded in this new era of feminine energy you're stepping into, this new era of receiving. Because the other thing is that when you're not used to receiving, and then you receive a lot at one time, you can then close yourself off from that receiving for fear you're gonna lose it because it's unfamiliar. Don't close yourself off to this energy. You need to stay open to it. And if you choose to stay open to it, you're going to be able to elevate to the next level of abundance. But you have to stay open to the receiving part and get used to receiving. And that gets down to even the little things. So for those of you who can't take a compliment or something like that, it's going to come in all different kinds of forms in the ways that you're going to be receiving. You're going to start being able to pay attention to the ways that you have been rejecting your abundance by accident. But that also means that you're going to need to pay attention to all the things that are being sent to you and not get overwhelmed by them, which is also why you may need to meditate more. You may need to take more time for journaling to keep your thoughts straight. You may need to take more time to be grounded, or you may need to slow down a little bit. I'm going to leave the reading here because I feel like that was a massive amount of information. And I feel like this is also a really long reading. I don't remember when I started, but I think I covered everything. If this reading resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and comment your affirmation down below. Your affirmation for this reading is, I remain open to receiving my good. And as always, may your life be full of light, full of love, abundance, and gratitude. I'll see you next time.